All right, so let's say you have a checklist of what you want in your next vehicle. Let's say you want a modern EV. Let's say you like Swedish design, Volvo-esque, and let's say you're a trailblazer. You want something different than what everyone else on the road has. This is possibly the perfect car for you. This is the Polestar 2. It is the first fully electric vehicle from Polestar. There's a lot of good stuff, there's a lot of negative, and we'll go over all that right now. But before we do, be sure to subscribe to CarGurus, hit the notification bell, that way you guys never miss an upload. But let's go ahead and get started. All right, so coming to the front of the Polestar 2. Now, you can see my shadow all over the car. That's because this magnesium color, it's very vibrant. It almost illuminates silver, but it's a very cool color. Once you get close to it, there's lots of flake and it looks good. You also have this body colored Polestar logo, which you either hate or love. I don't mind it. Now, as you move down to the grille, you're going to have an actual grille. Now, usually with EVs, it's either all the same color or blanked out. This one actually has a lot of openings, and it does make it look a little bit more like a traditional gas vehicle versus a true EV, at least in the front. And as you come to the lights, these are going to be essentially the same headlights from new Volvo products. So this is the Thor's Hammer LED headlight. However, this is going to have Polestar's Pixel LED technology. So coming to the side profile of the Polestar 2. Now, I do like how you have this floating roof design because of this blacked out pillar right here. It does give it that floating roof look, which I quite like. Now, coming to the wheels, I do like these wheel options. You have multiple wheel options you can choose from, and then you're also going to have a performance pack that you can get as well, which is going to give you things like the gold brakes, and then you're going to have the Öhlins dampers, which this one doesn't have that optional package. Now, as you move to the side is this sticker. Very interesting that they decided to put it there, and you can visibly see it's a sticker. You have one on each side. You can just peel that right off, I guess, if you don't want it. But the fact that it comes on there standard is a little strange to me. Now, since we're on the battery pack, let's go ahead and talk about that. 78 kilowatt hours. It is going to be mounted down here in the floor, so skateboard platform, from the ground up EV. And then you have one motor sitting on each axle, making it all-wheel drive, 408 horsepower, 487 pound-feet of torque. This has an EPA range of 233 miles, which is slightly disappointing because when this car was initially talked about, they were trying to target a 275 mile range, so it does go below that. Now, as we move back on the vehicle, you have your charging port right back here. I do wish it was integrated a little better. It makes it look like just a traditional gas tank. Then you open that up and you can DC fast charge this in about 40 minutes from 0 to 80%. It'll take 8 hours using a level 2, 22 hours using a standard wall outlet. And then as we come to the back, this is pretty cool because it's going to give you that fastback styling. Now, it is practical because this is going to double as a hatchback. We'll get into that more once we go into the trunk space, but the obvious benefit is it gives you such a good look from a side profile. All right, so moving to the back, you have this full-length LED that's going to run the length of the car. And then when you unlock it, it is going to have this animation you can see during the day. Obviously, it looks better at night. So since the Polestar 2 is a from-the-ground-up vehicle, you have a skateboard platform, that means you're going to get things like a front trunk or a frunk. You can fit the charging cable in here, which is nice. You do have this like dryer plug style outlet, and then you are going to have your standard wall plug available as well. But if you take that out and leave it at home, which most people will do, I really can't think what you would put in here that would actually make sense. Maybe like emergency snacks or something. I really don't know. But anything like a purse or like a small bag that could fit in here, I personally would just throw it in the back seat or on the passenger seat if there's no one there. But that's just me. Comment below, what would you guys use this for? Because I honestly can't think of anything. Other than that, you have things like your jack assembly equipment here, and if you lift this up, you do have a fix-a-flat in there as well. All right, so on the inside of the Polestar 2, I've never been on the inside of a vehicle that has so many highs, like very high highs, and so many lows. This is that vehicle. So let's do a little bit of sandwich technique here. We'll do a little bit of highs, some lows, highs again. So highs, fit and finish. Solid. So everything is built well. This is the vegan interior and it doesn't feel cheap. The seat material is great, nice solid fabric, nice interesting material here in the middle. You've got this like Alcantara here, or maybe it's like a faux Alcantara. You know, everything is just so solid. I love the feel of everything. All right, let's hop into the negatives. The practicality in here is almost non-existent. So for example, you have a storage area here, but it's not really a storage area. It's a wireless charging pad. So if I have my phone here, I don't really want to put anything on top of it. And then directly to the right of that, I have two USB-Cs only. So if you don't have USB-C, get some because there's no regular USB in this car. You've got these little areas here on the side that are so narrow, I could barely fit my wallet in there. And then you have this single cup holder. And the worst part about this single cup holder is this armrest, because I can move this armrest back and forth like this. And then at that point, I don't have a cup holder. You're probably wondering, well, where's your second cup holder? Well, that's under here, because you don't actually have armrest space. You just have another cup holder in your armrest, and then this tiny little area to maybe fit a phone with a case. And then once you get to the doors, it's just as bad. They're pretty narrow. And then your glove box, you know, you can put your normal stuff in there, but that's probably the most usable storage area in the entire vehicle. All right, so more positives. The design details in here are great. I love the light ambient lighting coming underneath this centerpiece here. The wood is gorgeous. I love the wood here in the middle. And then you have this little shifter, which is gonna have your Polestar logo in the middle. I love it. It's just a really cool look. Up here, you're also gonna have another Polestar logo that's actually projecting onto this giant glass roof, which is great. It's very well tinted, so it's not flooding you or cooking you with a ton of sunlight. Then coming to this screen, this is the first, or was the first, Android-powered infotainment. The reason I say was is because now the Volvo XC40 exists, which has a similar infotainment. But this is great. It's all Google-powered. If you have Google-powered devices, I highly suggest muting them right now, because you can do things like, hey, turn off my heated seats.
Okay, turning off the seat heater for the driver.
It's so easy. You have Google Maps as the native maps on here, so I can say something like, hey, navigate me to the nearest charging station.
Okay, charge point charging station. Here we go.
It's so quick, it understands you immediately, and it's already pulling up the maps here and right here, which is so convenient, and it's Google Maps, so it works very, very fast. Now, in this screen here, I can hit this menu button and I can change the way that my setup looks. So you have three different setups. They all look very neat. The animations, the refresh rate, all of the graphics look very high-end, and it's great. You don't have a head-up display, which I was slightly missing, but you kind of get over that. The Harman Kardon sound system in here is great. If you have a Google Home at your home, you can buy things. They'll be delivered to your door. You can do all kinds of things. You can tell it to turn off the lights at home. You can basically connect your car and integrate it with your life if you have Google-powered devices at home. All right, so sitting in the back seat of the Polestar 2. Now let's talk about room. I'm 6 feet tall for reference, and I've got large hair, if you've noticed. My hair is about 2 inches above me, so I can imitate a 6'2" person. My hair is scraping, so if you're 6'2" or above, your head will be touching here. Feet room is good underneath here. Knee room is great. This is where I was sat. But the issue I'm having is these seats sit up pretty upright. I did wish they had more of an angle to them. The materials back here are great. I love these two vents back here. Heated seats for both outboard passengers, two USB-Cs. I can take advantage of this beautiful glass roof, and I can see the Polestar logo, which looks awesome. All right, so coming to the rear of the Polestar 2. Now, with it being a hatchback, you do have this cargo cover here that is removable. You have 14.3 cubic feet behind the rear seats, and that's actually going to be 0.7 cubic feet less than a Tesla Model 3, despite this having the hatchback design, mostly because the Model 3 has more storage underneath the floor. You have a good amount here, it's just not quite as much. I can actually fold this up and create a divider here, and it actually stays in place very well. So I can put something behind there, put anything else I need to put in here. You also have these little straps to hold it in place, as well as a hook here. Now, once you fold the rear seats down, at that point you have more storage capability than the Tesla Model 3, and that's where this being a hatchback really comes into play in terms of practicality. Let's go ahead and take it for a drive. All right, so starting off in the Polestar 2. Now, to start the vehicle, you literally just hop in, throw it in drive, off you go. So once again, very similar to Tesla. And the drive in here is very nice. This one is gonna feel a little bit softer. It's gonna feel a little bit more floaty on the roads versus the Ohlins make the car feel a little bit more controlled and taut. Steering is pretty good. I have this in the normal mode right now, but I can go through my screen here and I can select light, standard, or firm out of my 3 steering feel options. I prefer standard just because I feel like it gives the best balance. One pedal driving, so you do have that on here. I have it set to low, but you can put it on standard, which will essentially bring you to a full stop whenever you lift off of the accelerator. Now, if you have creep on, creep is basically going to allow the vehicle to slightly move forward when you lift off the accelerator, just like a traditional gas car. Visibility around me is great. I do have small mirrors. I wish they were a little bit bigger. I don't really have a ton of blind spots, but the small areas that I do have, it's fine because I have blind spot monitoring on here, which helps a lot. Now, because this is electric, because it makes 408 horsepower, and because it's essentially like switching on a light, as soon as I put the accelerator down, instant power, and it feels good. It doesn't quite feel like the 408 horsepower, 487 pound-feet of torque hit that I was expecting. It feels a little bit less strong, but it's still plenty of acceleration for 90% of people who get behind the wheel of this thing. Now, you do have things like adaptive cruise. You do have a pilot assist, so once I hit my adaptive cruise and I push over to the right, it's going to have a yellow steering icon that lights up, and at that point it'll basically take over steering inputs. Not quite at the same level as Tesla's autopilot, but it's good, very good. So for me, there's one thing that completely dominates this entire driving and user experience, and that's this Android-powered system. It is amazing, guys. Very amazing. To the point to where I don't really have to interact with it because the Google Assistant is so good. I am an Apple person through and through. 90% of what I have is Apple products, except for my Google Homes that I use all the time because they work so incredibly well. This is just like using that. So if I wanted to say something like, hey, how much percentage is left in my battery?
Your battery is at 47%.
I can do stuff like that. If I'm looking for a charger, I can navigate to a charger. Other useful voice commands I can say is, hey, turn up fan speed.
Got it. Turning up the fan speed by 1.
Hey, turn on my heated steering wheel.
Okay, turning on the steering wheel heater.
And I can just keep my eyes dead on the road. It is one of the most impressive systems, and I think this entire system has to be one of the saving graces of this car. Don't get me wrong, it's a good car, but the real world range hasn't proven to be very good, which that in itself is very nerve-wracking, especially because the range doesn't go down by 1, it goes down by 10 miles every time it does move. So you'll be driving along at 110 miles, all of a sudden you see 100. So that's not a very confidence-inspiring thing whenever you have an EV, because if you're not already worried about range anxiety, it's even worse when you see your range going down by 10s. All right, last thing to talk about, competition and pricing. There's really only one main competitor, and it's the Tesla Model 3, which is not a good place for this vehicle to be because it just doesn't do a good job of competing. It falls short in almost every regard. The Tesla, let's say the long range, is about $55,000 with the $10,000 quote-unquote autopilot full self-driving feature. So this is $59,000 for a base launch edition, which is weird in and of itself. Then once you add the packages with the federal tax credit, you're not much cheaper than the Model 3, which has way more range, equal acceleration performance. It's going to have more practicality. It's going to have a better charging network. It's really hard to see why you would recommend this over that vehicle. Once again, the build quality on here is excellent. It's something unique. It's different than the sea of Teslas, especially out here in California. All right, so reversing, push the stalk forward twice. It's going to throw you into reverse. You have your 360-degree camera, and you can touch any camera angle to see, obviously, all around you. And I love the resolution. It's extremely useful, which means using it gives you a little bit more confidence because it has such high resolution. So the Polestar 2, it is a great car in theory. Whenever they announced it, all the specs, all the features, I was so excited, and it still has a lot of very, very good attributes. The infotainment being one of the highlights and honestly the saving grace of this vehicle. I like the styling. It's Volvo-esque, which is already great styling. Other than that though, in real world use, I'm having a hard time finding this being significantly better than something like a Tesla Model 3. And it's not often that I choose Tesla over the competitors, but in this situation, I personally would choose a Model 3. Let me know what you guys think. Would you still choose the Polestar 2 over the Model 3? I do still think it's a good choice if you don't mind the zero practicality in the front, and if you don't have that far of a commute. If you can handle the real world range of maybe 200 miles, this could be a good option for you. And once again, if you're a trailblazer, you like to have something new and unique, it's still a good, solid, well-built vehicle that is effortless to drive, and it just feels luxurious in every regard. It's just the specs aren't quite there for me personally. But if you guys are new, we'd love to have you subscribe to CarGurus. Be sure to hit the notification bell. That way you guys never miss an upload. Be sure to visit us on cargurus.com. Once again, comment, was I too hard on this car? What do you guys think? And we'll see you in the next review.